The country is immense, its wide, expansive vistas, and Ron finds it to be rich in geologic history. The area is also blessed with the wealth of many wondrous relics from antiquity and treasures from civilizations past. One soon becomes enchanted by the natural beauty of the region and develops a sense of being lost in time. In determining precisely where to begin his investigations, Ron approaches the matter differently than his Ark hunting predecessors. Instead of focusing his search on Mount Ararat, he began with a broader scope of vision. He feels strongly that an occasion as momentous as the landfall of Noah's Ark would be made record of in history and ancient legend by local inhabitants of the region. His insight and intuition were to pay off handsomely. He began by visiting and talking to villagers in the general proximity of the boat-shaped object. After several days of becoming acquainted with them and earning their trust, he gets the needed directions to the general area he has awaited so long to visit. At long last, here is the object which has held his fascination for so many years.
And here we are at last, gazing upon the mortal remains of the great boat that Noah and his family rode to safety.
When I arrived at the boat-shaped object, I was amazed at how much it looked like a boat. If you've ever seen a boat that had a hole in it and had partially sunk down to where just the railings of the boat were above the water, this is exactly what I saw sitting out there on that mountainside.
The site is located approximately 15 miles south of Mount Ararat and is known locally as Doomsday Mountain. The elevation is approximately 6,375 feet above sea level. Ron takes the dimensions of the object and finds it to be approximately 515 feet in length. His data corresponds with the original aerial photo survey and ground measurements which were made by both the Turkish and American teams. He finds it to be generally in the same condition as the 1960 expedition had described it. The object appeared as a long, boat-shaped semi-oval with a mound in the center having 20-foot-high earth-packed rims. Ron would like to take samples for chemical analysis, but at this point in time has no permits allowing him to do so. Although no conclusive evidence, other than the dimensions and obvious boat shape concerning the object possibly being the Ark, can be drawn from this first encounter, Ron is determined to return at a later time if and when he can get a permit to excavate. He feels strongly, intuitively, that there is much more here to be learned. However, Ron has made note of the fact that the strata where the object rests is sedimentary Cretaceous water-laid rock. This is an important point for purposes of documenting this area as the possible landing site of the Ark. As Ron continues his search for possible signs and traces of the legendary ship, he continues to befriend and talk to the villagers of the area. As he does so, more mysteries of the region begin to unfold. These people live today as they have for generations past. They tend their flocks of sheep and cattle and wander through their respective territories from season to season in a timeless ritual as a means for survival. They are a hardy breed of people and manage to survive in one of the harshest environments on the planet. They live in a rugged, unforgiving land that is both cruel and inhospitable. It is riddled with major earthquakes and has major unpredictable cold and hot spells during summer and winter. During winter, wolves freely roam the countryside, and there are massive avalanches. In summer, it is hot and arid, and sudden deadly windstorms arise. As illustrated here, one can see large clouds of dust from a windstorm moving and crawling like wraiths over the huge black lava beds at the base of Ararat. At every location Ron visits, Mount Ararat stands as a sentinel over the land and mysteries she has guarded for thousands of years. The Turkish word for Mount Ararat is Arida, which translated into English means the Mountain of Pain. This is an appropriate name, as many climbers have lost their lives on her slopes during adverse conditions. Notwithstanding the dangers normally associated with climbing any mountain, Arida is a high, lone mountain rising abruptly from the plains of Aras of 3,000 feet to a height of approximately 17,000 feet. Her majestic presence is a constant reminder to Ron that this area may indeed be the cradle of civilization. The thunder from lightning on Ararat is not the only thunder this captivating region has known. In ancient times, this area was a buffer kingdom between rival empires, and many times throughout the centuries has this land known the thunder of hooves and the clash of steel from fierce rival warriors' weaponry. The local villagers who have come to know and trust Ron are familiar with every stone, boulder, and canyon of their land. Once again, directions they provide him with lead him to a remarkable series of discoveries. He finds 3 massive anchor-type stones, all approximately 8 feet high and weighing several tons each. All are similar in proportion and design, and have 8 distinct crosses, which are carved in the stone in a pattern which Ron and other experts believe refer to the 8 survivors of the flood. The placing and alignment on the stones tell of their relationship to Noah and one another. This is called an iconographic representation. Ron elaborates.
Like all the other grave markers in this area, the Valley of the Eight, this marker once had 8 crosses. Now these are a beautiful representation of the ornate Byzantine cross dating back to approximately the 3rd century AD. The large cross representing Noah is especially ornate. The one representing his wife is quite a beautiful design. Now we have the matched pairing here, the eldest son and his wife. These crosses are of the ornate style. We have this cross here that represents one of the sons beyond the first son, and it matches with this one. Up here we have the representation of the other son, but the representation, or the cross representing his wife, is missing and apparently got broken away over the years. The alignment of these stones tell us the direction from which the boat came as it approached and the mountain that it landed on. One of these stones is approximately a quarter of a mile from the boat itself. Now these stones, or this type anchor stone, is a very familiar object to the students of early navigation. They were used by many of the early civilizations, the Phoenicians in particular, and the shores of the Mediterranean and the floor of the Mediterranean is strewn with these stones. The difference that becomes obvious immediately is the difference in size.
These giant pierced stones are similar to ancient anchor stones used in the Mediterranean for centuries and millennia. These pierced stones are like the large Bronze Age stone anchors from the Mediterranean. Tall, broad when viewed from the side, thin when viewed edgewise or end-on, tapered towards the top, and have rope holes at their upper ends. On all of these counts, therefore, they qualify quite readily as fitting the picture of stone anchors as Ron originally identified them. Only in size or scale do these stones differ significantly from their considerably smaller Mediterranean counterparts. If the size of the stone anchors implies the size of the boat or ship on which they were used, how much more should it be true for these stone anchors weighing several tons to be, by this standard, Ark-size stone anchors? As electrifying as these discoveries are for Ron, they're not the only reason for him to believe that this area is the possible landing place of the Ark. Villagers tell Ron that the village in which the standing anchor stone rests is known as the Village of 8. Also, this majestic valley, located a few miles from the village, is known as the Valley or Region of the 8. None of the inhabitants of this region know how these names came to be. They've been passed down from generation to generation. Again, he clearly finds reference to the 8 survivors of the flood. Here is another strong indication to Ron that someone from antiquity has left record of the landing place and survival of Noah and his family within this mystical and enchanting region.